Friendly welcome.
A true Friendly welcome indeed. I am Janky, and this is Gomez.
Hello!
And we are the Voices of the Old Ones, episode 5. As we teased last week, we will be going we will be going through some of the cards we are most excited for, post Nasus, and just in general, I suppose. God, that I don't know about you, but I feel as if we recorded the last episode at just the worst time because Kindred was so sick.
I mean, it was right. It was literally just before Kindred came out.
Like an hour beforehand.
So many good cards have happened since then as well. It has been an amazing reveal season, and without a doubt, I think this has been the set that I've been most hyped for so far. But obviously, like it just leads you like what's left to come, like what can come in the future. It has so much possibilities, but I just love this set right now.
Yeah, I am in love with some of the new designs. I know there's been a bit of flack going towards one champion in particular, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm almost ubiquitously happy with all of these cards.
Oh yes.
Good lord. So we just jump directly into like what cards we think are going to be like. If we have, I know both of us have a few followers who are very very new to the game. Like
yes.
Who like we attract brand new players. So if people are wondering how to use their effective dust, that's Hearthstone. What's it called? Gems.
Shards.
Shards. Yes.
Shards. One of those two things.
Right? Riot points. If people are wondering how to use their shards and they haven't got like a backstock of 10,000 odd shards like the rest of us do, then we can give a little bit of insight to that. I'd like to think we're reasonably okay players.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Well, yeah, I mean, like both of us have technically been masters.
Yep,
so,
that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to say that I'd probably say... I mean, I don't know whether you're going to agree with me on this one. I assume you might, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend definitely Lucky Find as being one of the cards that you might want to get at the beginning, just because Lucky Find, I think, it opens up so much possibility in terms of, like, it's so... versatile by the fact that obviously the different choices that you can make through Lucky Find, which obviously can grant keywords to things. So obviously, like, it's got some really powerful keywords in there, like fearsome, spell shield, quick attack, and overwhelm and tough, as well as the fact that obviously it's got stat boosts as well. And for a 2 mana, like, it is focus speed, but for a 2 mana which gives you a 0 mana card, it's, I don't know. I think that's going to be quite nice to have.
Oh yeah, it's like a charm from Magic the Gathering, or like the ability to pick from nodes, like pick different options, is like really nuts. And the fact that they're all permanent,
yes, yeah,
is also huge. No, I could agree on that. I have like some notes to the side of me of like 10 cards I would say are absolutely like definitely very safe crafts. And I didn't actually put down Lucky Find, but you definitely make a good point. It is certainly the fact it has tough is like pretty huge. Tough. I'm looking at Spell Shield over there. It would be nice if it would gave elusive, but that's
what I mean. I think that for a good little, because it's a versatile card that can be put into many decks, and that's why I'd recommend potentially crafting that as being like one card that if you're thinking, oh crap, what should I craft? Definitely, I'd say that's got to be up there, in my opinion.
Yeah. I have got. So what do you think are the champions to avoid this set, like power level wise? Like if you're just looking to win games, because that's where shards disappear quickly, is crafting 3 of a single champion.
That is very true. It's gonna be one of these things, right, where literally it depends on how things shake out, right? As much of me loves Talia and what Talia can do. She's the one, obviously, you can like create loads of spells that go onto the spell thing. With the reveal of Rite of Negation that can basically remove all of that going on. Also, Rite of Negation can remove all of Riptide Rex's attacks.
Yeah.
Like, with that being a thing, I just it depends on how the meta shakes out, but she would not be a champ I would craft like immediately if you are short on resources
Yeah,
out of this new
yeah.
set.
I would also say if you're short on resources, a couple of very niche champions that really only fit into their own archetype and maybe like some weird type of Freljord package is Sivir and LeBlanc. The entire reputation package seems very narrow in design, or not maybe not narrow, but I don't think they're going to see much play outside of their own strategies.
I will agree with you on LeBlanc in terms of the fact that I believe that literally she will. There's some fun things that you can definitely do with her, but it's going to be quite hard because of that 2 health stat. Which I'm going to be honest with you, I can 100% understand why they did the way that they did it. They wanted to add reputation into Noxus, and we know that Noxus has got a number of cards, the Trifarian cards specifically, which do 5 damage, and it's like trying to work with them. They wanted a low-cost champion that you could put out that would help with that. Obviously, in that free slot, you've already got Draven with quick attack, with which is a free. So because they wanted to push that reputation, they had to make her 5 attack, but had to take her health stat down in respects to that, and so obviously it does put her in the way of a number of things, Mystic Shot, Avalanche, and such. So. And obviously now the new card, which I yet again think could be a potential craft, is the fire. Why can't I think of the damn name of it right now? The one that comes Spirit Fire from
Spirit Fire, yeah.
Yeah, it puts her in range of that as well. So it's one of those things where I could see definitely things that are going to be fun to do with her and that copy mechanic, but. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend her if you're trying to win games immediately. She's probably not a hero that you should craft immediately. Sivir, I could potentially see her being like quite powerful with that payday mechanic if you can get yourself in a right kind of deck that's going to be leveling her. So it's got to be a lot of damage. It doesn't have to be just what's his face damage. It doesn't have to be just attack damage. It can be like fruit or spell damage, basically, what I'm trying to say is that she's going to level up quicker than you think, because imagine how quick Swain levels up, but Swain is only working on one type of damage, where she's working on all types of damage. So it's actually not as bad as she looks from the start in terms of a level up. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. I'm just saying that it's possible. And I do actually think that her leveled up, bearing in mind that she does drop with a spell shield herself, and that spell shield does replenish upon her level up.
Yeah.
I think that I would not put her in the same category as LeBlanc. I would say that she might have ways, that ability
Poor
of
LeBlanc.
what I know, right? But I'm just gonna say that I feel that Sivir might actually have some meta things. The ability, because of the region that she's in, the amount of things that you've got that can basically take down opponents' attack stats, and if you can just use Lucky Find and boom, get fearsome and give everyone fearsome on your side of the board when attacking, that could be really good, as well as the fact that obviously just giving everyone overwhelmed potentially in the right kind of deck could be good as well. So I just think that Sivir's not one that we should 100% discount, but if you're gonna go for that, I mean, I will say that, yeah, potentially not immediate craft, because of the fact that it's going to take time to figure her out perfectly. And so, yeah, potentially not finishing, but I do think that she's got some really powerful moves that can be. I mean, I just as a thing, I do have already a deck lined up that I'm thinking that this is going to be very stupid. It's not the right way to use her, but in my mind, this is comedy. So I've put Sivir into a Shen deck, with the idea of her giving everyone barrier, and then that would boom level Shen really quickly, especially in the right kind of deck that's running barriers anyway, and then just everyone getting barrier, Shen just immediately boom. It's the same as Bubble Man, only like from Demacia, only cheaper and in a different, like, obviously region. So I'm going to be trying that out, but I just think it's really funny.
That is, I mean, I will be. Every single one of these champions I will be crafting on day one, and I will be playing all of them in at least something. Like, I personally, this is not an issue for me, and there's all kinds of really dumb stuff I want to try with all of these cards, but I would probably stay away from both of them, and maybe also I would say Renekton. The Sun Disk strategy is not only very expensive dust-wise. I know you get given a Sun Disk for free, but you're also going to want to be playing 3 different champions. But it also just seems to lack support and be kind of like janky. So
I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
The weakest of the ascended champions on their first 2 levels, so just ignoring the Sun Disk aspect, is probably Renekton. I don't think he's a particularly safe craft either. I don't know if he'll even find a deck at all.
I mean, I don't think we can discount that overwhelm keyword. It can.
But he's got such a mediocre stat line.
I get that, but what I mean is that yet again, number one, in the right deck, but number two, all champions who have had the overwhelm, which is keyword, have had their time in the sun, right?
Yeah.
At some point during the game, every single champion who's run that keyword has had their time.
I would raise you on that and say that every single champion has had their time in the sun, though. I think every champion been meta at some point, except Katarina.
I mean, it would take me a while to disprove you. I think that Lulu had the least time in the sun.
Lulu Shen Batterman was huge for like a week.
She was there for a moment. She was there for a moment, but she did not last long. But yeah, no, I'll take your point on that. But I do think in the right deck, if you're running him with Scar Ground, so not relying on his level up to actually get his stats up with that overwhelm mechanic, and then once he levels up, he's giving himself +3/+3 on the attack. Obviously, it's not continuous, but it's just, I feel like it could be powerful, but yeah, not powerful enough to say definitely. Like,
I love your relentless optimism. I'm the type of person that when I buy like a booster box in like Magic the Gathering or something, I'm just going through every pack like bulk, chaff, bulk. Like, it takes a lot to impress me.
I love every single one of these cards, and I will find ways of using every single one of them. My problem is that I am an optimist. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh no. You misunderstand me. At the same time as I'm going through that booster box and going bulk, chaff, I'm sleeving them up and putting them into decks. Like, it's a compliment. I love bulk. But on the other side of the spectrum, I would say the champion that is probably the safest craft is Azir. Both his level 1 and 2 face are pretty nuts. They're comparable to Misfortune. The 3-cost slot is really important in competitive because you can miss the first 2 turns. You don't have to act on turn 1 and 2, but if you miss out on your turn 3, you're usually burning some mana.
He's got a lot of different ways of building as well, I think. Like, obviously, Shadow Isles is going to be the one where people are immediately thinking to throw him in there with Hecarim. But I have been pointed out, I know that it's going to be slightly more meme, but potentially even Bilgewater's got so many summon cards. When you think about it, like a Double Trouble and even Petty Officer, even summoning Kegs is still summoning an ally. So there is like a potential synergies in different pieces. I feel like he could be put into a number of different decks. He's also got a really good champion spell that is continuously reusable, which is good at, like, any stage in the game. Like, obviously it's going to be better late game, but even in the early stages of the game, just to get a Sand Soldier on the board, if you need that, if you've got that landmark, which is summoning, so you need something to be attacking, it helps with that, as well as the fact that if you are running this in a Shadows Isles deck with Chariot Shark, then you've got something which is definitely bringing that back. So, and those soldiers demand that you have to start putting things in front of them, because every Nexus strike, they're doing additional damage. So you're basically trying to force out your opponent to be doing those blocks. My one downside of him is great health stat. Boom, immediate to Culling Strike. He is down.
Oh, true.
That has got to be, but obviously that's only decks that are going to be running that.
Then again, he levels in deck, and if you play Azir as a 2/6 in your opponent's sitting on that Culling Strike, and they have to consider that you might have a second Azir in hand. You might have an Arise, which would fizzle their Culling Strike.
Of course, yeah. At that point in the game, yeah. So that is where it's going to take counterplay. But definitely, he is a really good champion. And I think that we were all just... The fact that he's level 3... I don't know how many times you're going to get him to level 3, but the fact that he's a level 3 is literally... Screw your deck, here's mine. Enjoy.
Yeah. I was annoying a person at work the other day. It was myself and two other members of staff that don't play Legends of Runeterra, but I was just so excited seeing these spoilers that I was like, listen guys, he blows up your own deck and replaces it with his own. Do you know how gangster that is? And they were like, no, what are you talking about?
I mean, it is amazing, and I can't wait to play the Emperor's deck. How many times you're going to get there is going to be the question, right? But for the times when you do, it is going to feel so fantastic.
My problem with the Emperor's deck is, conceptually it's so cool, but it's very hard to get there, and your opponent will probably surrender immediately, which is going to be the most feels bad.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But I do like the idea of it. I've got a few different questions in terms of how the Emperor's deck works. In terms of, does it just replace your deck? In terms of, does it have the exact same amount of cards that your deck did? Only it's now the Emperor's deck, or is it a completely new deck? By doing that, but what I check is, if somebody uses the Watcher, and then you play this, does he now? Let's say the Watcher removes your deck, but does he then go, aha, you thought you had me, Yugi, and then puts his whole new deck there? It's interactions like that I'm interested in, as well as the fact that obviously I'm assuming that this works, and the fact that this is a perfect counter to Teemo, in terms of Teemo puts all those shrooms in your deck. Once he levels up, we know that Teemo, like, you know, he doesn't, other than like adding more shrooms, if you get rid of their mushroom men and whatnot. But what I'm trying to say is, does this replace the deck and take out all the puff caps as well? That's another question.
That's a good point. I mean, Teemo places the puff caps on cards, and it's intrinsically connected to those cards. Yeah. So intuitively, you would think that it would get rid of all the mushrooms, but like, we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, I agree. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
But definitely, just really good champion in terms of just even these level 1 and level 2, as you say, like, you know. But level 3, that's where it kicks off.
That's really funny. I would say he's a safe craft off the sheer power of his level 1 and 2, but he's definitely got a very funny level 3. The other two champions I've got on my list are Nasus and Kindred, as just being very safe. Kindred especially.
Kindred is definitely, I would definitely recommend, in terms of you were wondering what champion should you craft from this set. Kindred, yet again, is just so versatile in terms of there is so many decks that you can craft. That Kindred does not just fit into one deck. That is a champion which you can definitely throw into a few different things and find really like a nice ways of using it. It's one of those cards where literally it's such a nice effect. That's basically meaning that you are forcing things like to be like dying on your opponent's side of the field. Obviously, there's certain counters they could use now that might be able to save them, like the Entomb, or even the cheaper one, which is from Finish. My mind can't remember the name of the damn sun. Was it sand thing? Why is my mind?
What? Soldier?
Sand clock thing that you store people in.
Ancient Hourglass.
That's the word, hourglass. Time sand thing. You understand what I mean?
Ancient egg timer.
Ancient egg timer. So the ability to be able to do that, like, so there is ways they can get around. But as I said, it's forcing that out of them, right? When in a turn where they might not want to or be ready to use it. So I definitely think the Kindred is one of those ones which is gonna be really good to use from day one.
Yeah, and furthermore, like, even if they do want to save it with something like Stasis Snare, or they want to sacrifice it to something like what's the word I'm looking for? The 2 costs, everyone plays it. Shadow Isles, Glimpse Beyond. Even if they do want to do these plays, they have to do it actively, because your Kindred doesn't trigger until the end of turn. Everything that Kindred does is done passively. It never goes on the stack, it just all happens. So they're going to have to commit to doing that thing as a slow action before the turn ends. And then you have your entire response package, whatever deck you happen to be playing, to maybe stop what they're doing in turn. So it's very powerful. Kindred is another one of these engine champions we have seen where they just sit on board, and if they sit on board for too long, then their value becomes obscene.
Definitely.
Twisted Fate, Aphelios, Zoe, champions that need to be removed pretty much on sight. Kindred,
Yeah, no,
I think, could
Kindred
be
definitely.
added to this list.
Yeah, it's definitely on that list because it's one of those things where because Kindred, because it works off of the slain mechanic, it doesn't matter if they kill things on your side of the board; they can kill their own stuff. Like with because let's face it, Shadow Elves has got is so good at that. Whether or not it is literally just using a Ravenous Butcher on a Cursed Keeper or using Glimpse for draw, like literally they have got so much utility in killing their own stuff. They don't even have to worry about making sure that they're killing something on your side. But obviously, if it does, because Slain works both ways, right? Whether or not it kills, whether or not you're killing something on your own side or whether or not you're killing something on your opponent's side. So the fact that it's got that, level of, versatility with that, then marking something for death and then knowing, well, basically, they need to do something about that because that is, at that point, they have basically made that unit ephemeral, right? For that round because they have to do something because that is leaving at the end of turn.
Yeah.
So really, really good card.
Yeah, so good. And the reason I put Nasus on the list is just because it's enormous and you can atrocity it to the face, and that's just a ancient, powerful strategy we've seen since pretty much the beginning of the game, and we know that making a unit big and then throwing it at the opponent is strong, and if you're just looking to cheese some day one wins with some new cards, then Nasus is pretty good.
Definitely.
To quickly go through a couple of base cards that are very powerful before we can move on to the exciting bit of what cards are actually fun.
Of course.
I'd say you already said Spirit Fire as a card that is just particularly powerful. I would agree. Spirit Fire is just a very powerful burst speed, pseudo wipe. Dune Keeper, the 1/2/1 that summons a Sand Soldier, can be used offensively or defensively, and it's enormous value for just a one cost unit. Like freaking nuts.
Yep.
I when I saw that card, I gagged a little. The other one that is just stupid stats for the cost was the one that came out on the day with Sivir. I can't remember what it's called. Rune Runner, I think. The Overwhelm Spell Shield 6 something yeah. That's so much stuff to be on a single unit, and I believe it's not even it's like a common or something, right? Like it costs
something like
dust.
that. Yeah, it's not too costly.
And probably Ancient Hourglass, Patient Squire, the 1/2/2 could easily replace Cythria, or be an addition to Cythria in Demacia decks, and one that's particularly. I don't know if I'm just wrong or whether this card is flown under the radar, but I personally think this card's very good. Is the 1-cost stone shaped stone, I believe it's called, which grants or gives a unit +1/+1 this round for 1 mana, but if you've played a landmark, it gives +3/+1 instead. That seems kind of nuts, right? Is this just me? I feel like nobody's really spoken about this card.
I mean, it's definitely going to see. I feel like it's going to see some play. It's one of those things where literally we know that anything that does stat kind of stuff is always going to be powerful for cheap. Like stats for cheap is always going to be powerful, right? I was going to say that one of the cards I would probably recommend, and I feel it's going to be really powerful, is Exhaust. One mana focus speed, give an enemy -2 attack and make it vulnerable this round. It is just a perfect trading and it's a value trade card of right, boom, I'm knocking that down and I can make this trade happen here. Obviously they can go ahead and buff it or do some things past that, but I mean it's something which is then forcing that out of them, and it's helping you along your way, right? In terms of, I feel like it's got so many different ways of being used, because either you could do this as a to grab immediately, or if you're playing a fearsome deck just to get that one card that might be just about for 1 cost, basically focus speed before going into that attack. If you've got a big board of lovely fearsomes, just to go boom, there you go, that's -2 and can't defend anymore unless you do something. So I like that. I think that's going to be quite a powerful card, and I think that should not be underestimated. So Exhaust would probably be what I'd recommend on the first day one to grab.
Again, it's a common as well, so it costs what is it, 100 or something.
Something like that. I can't remember how much it costs.
Yeah, but they are just pushing that effect like every single set, aren't they? Because like they started with Ye Been Warned or whatever with the official release of the game. Then they put in.
I thought. Wait, I was gonna say, yeah, no, you're right with the official release because that is when Rising Tides added.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, wait a minute. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we go all the way back, then they started with On Guard, which is like. So yeah, they have been pushing it. Like these cards which affect combat because like it went from On Guard to Ye Been Warned to the one that deals 2 damage to one of your units to give 2 of them vulnerable to this. It's like they're gradually pushing how powerful they can make these proactive choosing your opponent's blockers kind of cards, and this one is really pretty pushed.
Yeah.
We'll remain to see how far it can be pushed before it breaks. I don't think we're quite there yet, but it's definitely strong.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, without shadow of a doubt. But yeah, no. So if obviously, Arise to craft alongside with which Azir, if you're going to be crafting him, like Arise is definitely going to I know that it's his champion spell, but also as I said, just a solid spell on its own because. Yeah, again, those Sand Soldiers, that ability to keep doing it, depending on obviously how much mana that you've got in your hand, they can be used both offensively or defensively in terms of literally just summoning yourself a little army just to defend yourself or to go immediately to attack forward. And depending on how you've built that deck, the potential of obviously buffing those Sand Soldiers so that they've got even more attack, I just think that Arise would be a card to consider as well.
Yeah, pretty much all the Sand Soldiers cards are reasonably pushed. Dune Keeper, like I've already mentioned. Desert's Wrath is actually very pushed as a 4-cost that makes 2 units. It's a very punishing defensive spell and
I was going to
they give
stats.
Well.
It gives stats as well, doesn't it? That one, yeah.
And the 2-cost landmark, I don't know. It's really hard to evaluate landmarks because it's still early days for landmarks.
It's always remembering that they're taking a space on the board, but what makes these landmarks slightly better than all the other landmarks is because whenever you play a landmark, what you're doing there is you are sacrificing a space on the board to give yourself something in a good effect. Or something, but it's always need to remember that you are sacrificing a space on the board and also sacrificing basically a spot where you could go forward with an attack. But the good thing about this is that when you go forward, that spot gets filled up by that landmark. If you understand what I mean, when you're pushing for an attack, that's creating a unit that would go in the space that the landmark.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to say is the fact that it's that's me. In terms of attack, when you're attacking, it's not as bad as the other landmarks, whereby you are taking away from yourself a position on the board. If you understand what I mean, to go forward with.
I've always been reasonably confused as to how that works. It makes the thing even if you have a full board. If it is certain that thing is not going to be there at the end of combat, so for the sake of the Shark and this Ephemeral Sand Soldier, it will put in that 7th unit, regardless of board space. Is that how that works?
Well, no, obviously, board space, because you know what happens when you play Chariot Shark with somebody like Hecarim, whereby it would summon them, but if there's not space, it just burns them, right?
Yeah, but I'm by that I mean your backline. So if you held back. If you held back 5 units and you attacked with a Hecarim, it would summon the 2 Ghost Horses and even maybe a full board of Chariot Sharks. It doesn't care about what's on your backline. But it will only summon those if it's certain that at the end of combat those things won't be there. So they pretty much have to be ephemeral. Or Grom making a Poro after.
Yeah. So it's that. So you know that you're still that space on the board's not being completely thing. Now, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna stake my reputation on this. I know that I don't have much of a reputation, so I'm hoping to acquire one from this escapade. I would say Rite of Negation is a card to get because we know how powerful Deny is, and this is Deny on steroids. Yeah. Obviously, your opponent knows if they're playing against Shurima, there's a potential for this card being in there. But even if they only use just one spell because they're expecting this spell to come in. It is basically then playing as a deny, and we know how powerful deny is. It's the same cost as deny, and it's so much more powerful in the right circumstances.
Oh yeah. I can agree with that. If we're putting our reputation on cards that may not, if we're putting our reputation on cards that look bad on the surface but are actually quite good, I'm going to quickly state my case about concurrent timelines.
Oh, concurrent timelines. I mean, to be fair, you make it sound like I was saying like what you call it, right of negation. Like there was no doubt that that's going to be a good card, right? I mean, there mustn't be any doubt that that's going to be a good card because that is amazing. It's okay. Right, imagine the comedy of the fact that so many people are running Twisted Fate right now. If not used correctly and they get all of Twisted Fate's cards on, like, once he levels up, if they get all of his cards on the board by burst speeding stuff, just go, boom, right of negation, that just removes all of his cards from affecting you that round.
Burst, what about fast speeding? Then you can get rid of 6 things off the stack. Huge. Anyway, so, for those of you, this is actually kind of old news now, but I said it on Twitter early days, so I feel smart. I want to stress that this concurrent timelines card, for the rest of the game, the first time you play a follower each round, pick one of 3 followers with the same cost to transform it into. Sounds like a super meme card, but Karina Control has been a deck that has existed for a while. It's just
definitely.
kind of fallen to the wayside. Karina already doesn't run basically any followers at all. It runs champions in the form of Vi and Elise that will be completely unaffected by this card, and Ledros and Karina, who can both turn into Dreadway.
Yes.
Which sounds like a meme, but the chance of that working because of the number of 9 costs that exist in the game right now, I haven't actually checked to see if they're adding any with this set. I don't think they are. But the chance of that happening right now, at least, is 60%.
Yes.
You can
really
play
powerful.
You can
really
play
powerful
Ledros, and 60% of the time, you win the game.
Yeah.
I think that deck might be legitimately good, and I think Riot might actually fundamentally rework concurrent timelines, because giving a deck a win condition that is so definite, but whiffs 40% of the time, is just like, feels bad for both players.
I just think that what you number one, I agree with you in terms of the fact that I think that concurrent timelines is definitely going to be a really good card, and that combination was confirmed by Riot, and it definitely is a really funny combination, right? And definitely, that's what I was thinking. Like day one as well, when I saw that card, I was like, oh my god, this card is it's gonna create some insane situations, and obviously that is the main one that it can create. I think that like the main way that they might. I don't think they're going to change this card because I feel like this card is, it's got such a good like flavor to it. What they might do is add more 9 costs, right? They might dilute the pool of 9 costs. I don't think, I don't know. I don't think they'd hit the card.
That would be the funniest hotfix ever if their way of fixing concurrent timelines was just to buff a load of 10 costs to 9.
But what I mean is, I feel like that's how that's gonna go. Bearing in mind that obviously, with the Ledros combo, we now have got 2 regions. As I just said, Rite of Negation would remove that, and obviously Deny is still in Ionia. So if it becomes a big enough deal, I feel there will be counter decks that will be there to kind of like curve that, right? But it's definitely a really fun card. I cannot wait to have a little fun with it. Is it now? You're gonna call me stupid for this, right? But do you know what this card? I've basically already designed a deck to work with this, which obviously, as you said, is mostly the Karina Control deck. I might have done a slightly stupid thing, but in my mind, it's genius.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so that deck, as you know, runs mostly spells, hardly any units. I have decided to include... This is going to be a card that some people are going to say, who the hell is that guy? I have put Chem Punk Shredder into this deck. 2 copies of him, which, if anyone remembers, he is a 5 cost, 5/2, Play effect, deal 1 damage to all enemies. The idea of putting him in the deck is that there's so many good 5 costs that he could change into, and that play effect of dealing damage to the other side of the field while playing him, and then giving myself something else on the board at that stage in the game, I thought was too funny not to at least include 2 copies of that guy in that deck. But for the most of it, it is a Karina control deck.
I can't call you stupid for that. Like we've already seen from Remembrance that 5 costs are on average stupid.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
The average 5 cost is just kind of dumb. So yeah, I can't be mad at that.
Yeah, I know that, but yeah, but for the most part of it, it's a shit ton of removal spells with Karina Ledros, and obviously Vi and Elise. But I thought it was too funny not to put him in, so I put him in.
Which like segues us pretty cleanly into cards that aren't necessarily good, but we are personally very excited for.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Mirror Image. Mirror Image, the card that is a playable, because I can't remember, is Mirror Image actually main deckable?
Mirror Image is not main deckable,
unfortunately. That's it's only through her, but I love the idea of it, and that's the reason why I, honest to God, want to play her, is because I feel like, as we know, as I said, like, she's not the same as Swain in terms of its only strike. That 15 damage, especially considering the fact that she's got a 5 attack stat herself, is not too bad to get. And if you can get a number of copies of that Mirror Image spell, as well as the fact that obviously Black Rose Spy already makes an exact copy of the strongest ally that struck this round. I feel like that is gonna make for some really funny combos, and because the ability to make extra copies of champions, we already know that it's really powerful in Shadow Isles. In terms of the fact, like the whole thing of obviously using Rekindler and then using Heroine to bring like loads back, but the idea of using that in a different region, I'm honest to God really excited for. That's my main reason, that she's really gonna really meme tier LeBlanc, but I'm loving her spell and I'm loving the idea of getting loads of Vi's on the board. Okay, loads of leveled up Vi's. The fact it makes the exact the thing that needs to be remembered here is that both Black Rose Spy and Mirror Image make exact copies. That is I think very important to remember. So admittedly, Black Rose Spy, you wouldn't be able to use it on the same turn if you're using something like Might to buff something up. But my idea is basically giving leveling Vi up, giving her Overwhelm, making loads of copies of her, and literally even putting her in front of something. The strike is already doing 5 damage to the enemy Nexus, and then any Overwhelm damage that goes over the top if possible. It's really stupid, but I think it's really funny.
Okay, so I alluded to this earlier in just after the introduction, so I'll touch on this for a minute. People were really disappointed with LeBlanc. A lot of people were really disappointed with LeBlanc. Reddit was on fire. I'll tell you that for certain. Reddit, as LeBlanc was getting spoiled, because there was a Mobalytics exploit where you could get her spoiled a couple of hours early.
Yeah.
Reddit legitimately was hoping it was a scam. That Mobalytics was fucking with them, and they were releasing fake cards because they knew that people were trying to get to cards early. That was the kind of shit we were dealing with in the hours leading up to LeBlanc's release. And I get it. Firstly, from a gameplay perspective, she seems quite weak on the surface. I actually agree with you that she is not as weak as she looks. I quite like her. But from a character perspective, a lot of people like LeBlanc from League of Legends.
I was just going to say, I think that was the main thing that people were, is that they felt that it didn't attach onto the lore enough. And I think that was the main reason that people were annoyed. Don't get me wrong, I can see why that would, because if you've built up this image in your head of what you expect and it doesn't come, I can understand the disappointment. But you go on.
She is a smoke and mirrors assassin that is a very high skill cap, League of Legends champion. She does huge damage, which is where the 5/2 comes from. She's very fragile, but she's a huge tactical she's very difficult to play. You mess with the enemy a lot by making copies of yourself and like trying to befuddle the enemy and like get them off your scent so that your 2 stat line or your low health in League doesn't matter as much. And her level up condition is hit them very hard. So like I kind of understand the disappointment, but when I saw her level up animation and she screamed, "I am everywhere, I am everyone," all was forgiven, Riot. I'm honestly, I can see people's disappointment, but she is, I think, one of 2 champions that is on my top 10 favorite cards. Because I wrote a little list of my favorite cards out of this set in preparation for today, and LeBlanc is one of 2 champions that are on that list. This is like one of the only champions that enchants me out of this.
And quick attack is such a good keyword. Like, we've seen the quick attack, because it's such an annoyance to deal with sometimes. Obviously, I said her health stat does put her in that where she can be beaten by a number of things. But if she's a really powerful mage, isn't that just classic glass cannon? Yeah. Isn't that what that is?
Yeah, it's not a terrible translation. It's just it's not necessarily great.
But I feel that I think that it's going to be really fun to use her mirror image. I think that spell can be a lot more powerful than people potentially realize. Like, in terms of the fact that even I'm talking about Vi, but even Darius making more copies of him, if you've managed to do enough damage into the enemy nexus that you just make loads of copies of him, that could also be really funny. Yeah, I feel like there's like and it's not even just champions. You could make exact copies of other units as well that are going to be really powerful. So I just think that it's got a lot of potential, and it just needs to be given that chance.
I love her. She's absolutely stolen my heart. She's like she's definitely my favorite champion from the set. It's close. My second would probably be Talia. Talia it looks like she's going to be a ton of fun.
Plus, as well, the cards that came with LeBlanc, there was a lot of really good ones in terms of the fact that, number 1, finally, Pot of Greed for Noxus!
Oh yeah, this was actually a card I forgot to mention when we were talking about strong cards.
Which is, definitely, this is definitely a really strong card. Like, Noxus's biggest problem has always been its lack of draw. It's always needed to go outside. I mean, I know that they have the bookie, who obviously I know they have.
Yeah, whatever.
Yes, they totally have the bookie, right? But I know they have the bookie. But let's face it, Noxus's biggest downfall has always been they need to go outside of their own region for draw, because that is its one thing. They can run out of pace very quickly. They got really powerful stuff, but just run out of pace. And so the fact that Noxus has been given draw, it's devastating, right?
It can't be overstated how little reputation matters on this card. 4-cost draw 2 already exists on a playable card.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like the toss aspect of what's it even called? Salvage. Yeah. Is almost completely. It's a downside in some decks that still run it. So Whispered Words is just okay as a 4-cost draw 2. And as a 2-cost draw 2, you already know what that does.
But what does it do?
It allows me to draw 2 cards from my deck.
And also, I honestly think that Mimic is such a good card that they've given, because obviously, like a whole thing about mind games and whatnot. Mimic is such a good thing. The fact that it is pick a card in play or in your hand, so you can either do it like boom. I'll work with what I've got. Or if your opponent uses something and you're like, it'd be good if I use that this turn as well. So need to bear in mind, the most important thing is make sure whatever you're copying, you've got the mana for, because it's only a fleeting copy in hand. So whatever you're copying, make sure you've got the mana for. Obviously,
copying War Mothers.
You can imagine there's gonna be somebody, right? Or Feel the Rush. Ooh, yeah. I like to look at that Feel the Rush. Oh no! I mean, obviously, it's one of those things, but I do think that because the ability to, as we've already seen with Spell Thief, I know that it's not an exact comparison, but the fact that when somebody throws down Deny, and then you go, aha, allow me to deny your deny, it's such a powerful move, and so I do actually really like this spell, as well as obviously that you can literally just use it in your own region. I know that somebody's already said, now, bear in mind, okay, don't use this combination to be a complete dick, okay? Like,
Yeah.
I always hate when people use combinations to be a dick, but I do like it when people use combinations to do something fun and that's actually going to kill somebody. So, rather than just stalling the game. But the ability of using Victor with
Mhm.
Mimic and basically making copies, like if you have two Mimics in hand, and making a copy of Mimic to make a copy of Mimic. Because obviously, once you've gone Reputation, it's gone down to 1 cost. And so Victor, once leveled up, will make the created version cost 0. And so
Yeah.
the ability to just go, aha, aha, aha. Now, really good combination if you've got leveled Victor and leveled Ezreal on the board at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that is just GG. But don't do that tactic in order to try to stall and piss off your opponent. But I think that
Remember, they changed the
there is
turn
a
timer,
limit.
so you can't just hold the ladder
Yeah,
hostage anymore.
there is a limit. I do know, but I'm just saying, like, you know, just as a general, as a rule of courtesy.
Yeah. Mimic was also on my list. I freaking love this card.
Yeah.
I'll just gonna jump straight to the top. The card I am most excited about from this set, by a lot, is Lamb's Respite. Give the weakest ally I can't take damage or die this round.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's not the card I thought you was gonna say. I'll tell you my card in a moment, but yes, no, that is actually a really good card.
It's not because it's good. Oh no, it's not because it's good. It's because Undying Keg is one of my favorite decks that is completely not viable. But 2 mana to make your kegs invulnerable until the end of turn. You can make 2 mana, more powder, 2 mana, more powder, Lamb's Respite, that's 6 mana. You now have spell damage +4 for the rest of the turn, and you've still got however much mana. But you can kill someone for 0 off of that. You can just warning shot face.
I love the fact that, like, playing Lamb's Respite when you do have a keg on the board, it would basically force removal out of your opponent just to kill that keg. And the funny thing is, it doesn't even matter because the spell won't fizzle because it is just give your weakest ally. So even if the keg dies, it still is usable. So Lamb's Respite is actually such a good card, more so than people think. Because like you can stop it from targeting what you want, like your opponent is trying to make it target by, like, obviously, like, dealing damage to it and killing it, but it's still going to take effect as long as they've got something on the board, right?
Yeah, and the animation is absolutely pog. So
Oh yeah, definitely, yes.
That definitely helps.
Yes,
that's probably my day one deck is Undying Keg to bring back the good memories of losing 90% of my games. But maybe this version will actually take some Ws.
But definitely, I was going to say, I thought the card that I was thinking is definitely one of my favourite cards. I mean, let's face it, there's 2 of them. They're both from the same region. And it is Lost Riches and Loaded Dice. Those are my, like, from this set, those are my favourite cards.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was actually about to guess those when you said same region, because in my head you were always either going to say Loaded Dice, Lost Riches, or Strength in Numbers.
Yeah, I mean, Strength in Numbers is really good, and I will be making another big Beardy Men deck because I do really love a good Marauder. Like, a good Marauder deck is, like, surprising. Like, I think that it takes people by surprise how good a good Marauder deck is. But yeah, definitely, I'm loving the idea of both of those cards. The idea, because what you need to bear in mind with Lost Riches is that it is something that you can play in deep before even getting to the Shipwreck Holder that is putting treasures in your deck. And treasures, like, upon toss, they just go directly into your hand. So actually getting cards earlier, like in a deep mechanic, getting cards earlier into your hand, or getting also into your deck that are going to be treasures, then finish it, and just knowing that even if they get tossed, it's fine. I've got this. I will say that it's going to feel slightly bad, like, after that point, like, after you play that the first time, because, I mean, like, it then becomes draw treasures, but treasures are not too bad. It's just that I like the initial 4 mana burst speed of getting treasures in your deck before Shipwreck Holders even played. I think that is such a powerful thing to do, and honestly, I love that card. But I also love Loaded Dice. Its ability of, like, let's face it, warning, like, playing this card and then playing, like, 3 warning shots, or playing parlays and like like the right kind of deck. Like, so I already theorized what I think like a hilarious combination of this card's gonna be. Don't get me wrong, not many decks are gonna get there, but you know it will. Like the Karma combination. If you get Karma on the board, level her up, turn 10, use Dust Till Dawn, get loads of karmas, use loaded
Oh.
dice. If loaded dice stacks, like in terms of the fact that it says for the rest of the round, when you deal damage to the enemy nexus, nab 1. If all those karmas then cast loaded dice and loaded dice stacks, one warning shot, and then all those karmas are doing boom, 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 do another warning shot. I mean, you're going to be burning so many cards, but they're not your cards. They're your opponent's cards in terms of that. Think about how many cards that is legitimately nabbing. And if you've got multiple warning shots to go with that combo, you can basically burn down your opponent's deck. Don't get me wrong. This is 100% meme tier, but for the comedy of when it does happen, it's amazing.
6 squared, 36 times.
You try to work out the
yeah,
math
yeah. You would one warning shot would draw the top 36 cards of your opponent's deck.
So yeah, the comedy, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, that's what I mean. It's a good combo, right?
I mean, now that so I had a very similar plan for day one, but that's my plan now. So
that is my plan now. Good.
Yes, yeah. That much like my opponent's cards, that plan belongs to me.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And also, I mean, I would be remiss if at least at one point I didn't mention production surge. Just because you know Gomez loves the Heimerdinger deck. The ability of getting bots on the board, like basically like having Heimer on the board, playing this spell, summoning a bunch of bots which do actually count towards his level up, and then playing the bot that was created from playing that. Like basically it's a really quick level up for Heimer, and it's also like it is that a bit of randomness if you don't know exactly what bots you're gonna get or how much space they're gonna take up on the board, but just really funny, right? In terms of the fact that just a really fun. I would definitely have a lot of fun playing that card and then just working that with Heimer. So I have to say production surge just for pure banter's sake. So yeah, no, I've got to say that.
I want to know if it has any possibility of summoning the 0-cost turret, because like if you does this always have the possibility of filling your board? Like summon random turrets whose total cost equal the mana spent. If you spend 0 mana on this, is there like a 0.01% chance you just get a board filled with 0/1 challengers?
I don't know. It just says to play, spend all your mana, summon random turrets whose total cost equals the mana spent. So I don't actually know, right?
I don't know if A, if it's in the pool, B, if it will only summon one of them, or C, whether or not that matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be one of those things, right? Where I'm gonna love testing it out and seeing what the hell that does. If I was gonna say like one, like, so do you have your card which you like consider to be potentially a bad card / negative card, at all? Because I've got one.
What, you mean like a card that I'm excited to play that's really garbage?
No. I mean a card which, like, you know, it's nice that we got a new card, but at the same point, I feel like it might have slightly more negative repercussions than it does positive.
Yeah, like many. Every set that comes out, it fills me with fear and angst. But like, which one are you talking about?
My one what I'm talking about is I'm so glad that they decided to add a new sea monster.
I know what you're about to say.
But don't get it worked. It's one of those things where it's so glad that they've added to that, because let's face it, sea monsters haven't seen any love since Rising Tides, basically. I mean, let's just quietly forget that Elnuks were ever a thing, because that has probably been the most underappreciated tribe. Like, tribe.
Why isn't Dragon Chow an Elnuk for real?
Exactly. Like, that's to be the most underappreciated tribe is Elnuks. But sea monsters as well has been a tribe which has not really seen any change up for a very long time. I do like it in the fact that it will work well in deep decks, in terms of the fact that it will like help get you there, right? In terms of the fact that but the negative downsides of that card means that now this is a card which, if you're playing Slaughter Docks, that's gonna it dilutes the pool of sea monsters in there, and it dilutes the pool of the hunters, like Vivji, and it's one of those things where it's just. I like it, but at the same point, it's one of those things where it potentially has got slightly more negative effects to the deep deck than what is first seen by the eye.
Thanks, I hate it. Yeah, that's. I mean, the card that. Yeah, I agree with you. That's actually one of the cards I'm most excited for, because I like playing Nautilus. Deep decks. I like playing Mono Malachi Shadow Isles. So, like killing my own stuff to toss away my cards. I'm really hyped for this card. I love this card, but that was one of the first things I thought when I saw the card was low rolls are now more aggressive in deep.
Yeah, that's don't get me wrong. I like the card that's definitely got, like as you said, utility to be able to play. Like as you said, it does just help Malachi outside of like him not having to be in Bilgewater. So it's one of those things where like it's good, but also at the same time that it feels that little tiny bit bad to it as well. But that is the one card that I'd say is, in my opinion, like the worst one of the set in terms of just like the negative implications.
If we're talking about worst cards of the set in regards to health of the game, I would heavily disagree. Citing either concurrent timelines or Xenotype Researchers.
Xenotype Researchers is such a good card! How dare you!
You're right, but its high roll potential is absolutely disgusting.
Xenotype Researchers is actually a card that I would actually suggest being a potential turn one, day one build, like definitely craft, because
I was kind of just not mentioning it in the hope that if I just don't look at it, it goes away.
But it's for a free cost. It's a free cost, free, and it's buffing like 3 random units in the deck, and just it's got so much use. And there's that ability, and there's it's one of those things where literally it's a card that you could literally just throw into any deck, because you know for a fact that at least those buffs are going somewhere, and then you can just it's It's the Omen Hulk, but slightly more slightly more upscale, upbeat Omen Hulk of Shurima.
Omen Hulk, scary big brother.
Exactly.
You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about.
I mean, it's Omen Hulk. Omen Hulk is the one cost. Is it 1/1 or is it just one attack? I can't remember.
It's 1/1.
Well, it's the free cost, free, give free to free. Right. So, admittedly, Omen Hulk is more targeted in terms of the fact that it's the top 3 cards of your deck, and this is random.
Top 2.
But
Christ, can you imagine if Omen Hulk was top 3?
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah, no, I do definitely think that this is actually going to be a very strong card for the Shurima region. And as I said, there's like so many different places that you could put this in. Just any. Speaking of,
I didn't say it was weak. I said it was unhealthy and scary. Go on.
Potential. I was going to say the potential of just throwing that into any deck which is running any forms of overwhelm. Devastating, and so I'd probably recommend that as being a card to craft day one as well. Like if you're looking for like powerful cards.
Yeah. Cards that So, can we talk about Dragon Chow for a second?
Of course we can, because
it's
adorable.
As a fellow Hearthstone player, do you remember when there was the quick gun, or whatever it was called, the quick load Tavern Brawl, where you could only bring 3 cards in a deck, and it just like cycled
Yeah,
through those 3
yeah,
cards.
I remember it well because it used to be like the Murloc deck time where you'd literally just play that Murloc who every single time you summon a Murloc goes up in stats, and you
Yeah.
just because they're so low cost anyway.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up was because people were playing the deck which held the opponent hostage by playing just 0 cost cute units and making the opponent watch them die. I have seen so many people commenting on Twitter about how if they see Dragon Chow in normals, they're going to surrender before it dies. Which gives Dragon Chow a secret line of text where sometimes you just win the game.
Yes, I mean Dragon Chow. It is such a cute unit, and as I said, I believe the first thing I said when I saw this card on like live reveal was this card was made purely to die. Its whole purpose in the game is just to be killed.
Yeah,
And it's devastating, right? I mean, it's draw for Demacia though.
Like you can't lie. It's not even draw. It's not even draw. It also gives the first dragon you play +1/+1 because it triggers its fury.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
it's
And
very powerful.
And it works really well with Shyvana in terms of seeing like dragon attacks to help level her up.
It's just correct to play it.
It is, but at the same time, you do
Kill the
feel
elephant,
bad.
Gomez.
You do feel bad. It is just like it looks so good. I think that what makes it like over the top is the artwork has been done so well. It is so oblivious. It is so oblivious to the pain which is about to befall it.
Yeah, I want there to be we haven't heard its death voice yet.
Oh no! Don't say these things.
Yeah, because like whenever a unit dies, like when Aphelios dies, Alun goes, "I'm sorry." I want Dragon Drow to just go, "You killed me," or something. I wanted to have a voice and for it to very definitely tell the player they're immoral.
Oh no, I mean, this might be terrible of me, but I want there to be a squill, and I want there to. Listen, I want there to be a squill, and
the sound of blood.
I want whoever voiced the Eggman, the researcher who goes, "Not the egg." I want his voice to no.
His voice to go, oh.
In the background. Oh my.
Oh my. The age of dragons has begun. Oh dear.
But
yeah, I love that guy. The Alnand or whatever he's called, the egg researcher.
Egg
Great
researcher,
voice acting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring him back just for that card. But honestly, I think that we can both agree that Bright has just done an outstanding job with this whole set. In terms of the fact that it's just it leaves so much room for creativity in terms of the fact that you could literally just take all of these cards and just have like a blast just trying to like put these into a variety of different decks. And yeah, honestly, like props to them for this design. I cannot wait to see the next couple of and as well as that, the roadmap is insane in terms of how close the next 2 expansions are together, like to each other.
Show me Cassiopeia.
But it's amazing, and I cannot wait to play these cards and see what else is there.
Tonight, right? 11 p.m. British time?
Oh, yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Shall we wrap it up there, then?
I think we should. I think we've been going on for a while.
If there's any cards that you guys think we missed out, either as strongest or coolest, do let us know in the comments. We read them all.
Yep.
And tell us how wrong we are. I'll put the same disclaimer at the end here that I put at the start of my last, set review video. This is aimed, our game suggestions, what you should craft, are for people who don't necessarily have the insight to make those kind of decisions themselves. So if you have the insight to argue with us or get upset with us, then the suggestions weren't for you anyway. It's for new players to have a better idea of what they can craft. We are not telling you objective truths, and we're not looking to start an argument. But if you have anything,
very true.
If you have something that you think we missed, we are open to discussion, and we'd be happy to hear it. But that has been episode 5 of Voices of the Old Ones.
Indeed.
And you can find all of our links in the description below, and we will see you at episode 6. Have a good one.
Yes.